Hello, my name is Darius Anucauskas and I'm the Chief Market Analyst here at Markets.com, and today is Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Right, look, we had a crazy Friday, right? I mean, you saw the big swing to the downside, big drop. You saw the movement everywhere, right? The world was like collapsing, just because of one post, and hence why I've called the session the power of the post, right? Look, we're going to talk markets. We're going to see what's happening, and in general, how all this is beautifully manipulated, and how we're all playing this game here. Look, about all this and a little bit more in the webinar right now. So hopefully you'll enjoy the session. Hopefully you'll stick around, and I'll see you in a bit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello, and good morning. My name is Darius Anucauskas, and I'm the Chief Market Analyst here at Markets.com, and today is Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Yep, the 13th. Monday the 13th, and let me just double check if I have everything working smoothly. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, hello, good morning. I hope you can hear me and see me well. I hope there are no interruptions in terms of technical ones. Look, the markets. Wow, what a Friday we had. Look, I'll talk about this in a moment. Just before we go any further, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So yes, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation and should not be considered as such. This material should not be taken as an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. I'll give you a few seconds to read the rest. I'm not going to disappear anywhere. So yes, I'm going to put my usual good morning in the chat room. Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everyone. There we go. So yeah, markets. Also, just before we jump into the charts, just a quick mentioning of our Markets.com website, which you can always check out for more information about us. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist. Also, just a quick mentioning of our webinar, or my webinar, which is going to come up, which is coming up at the end of October. And basically, you can find the link in the description of this video below. Basically, the webinar is going to be a closed one. You need to register for that one. But basically, what we're going to do here, I'm going to talk about Bollinger Bands. Now, this is the third episode in the series, which I'm doing right now, where I'm covering top indicators that probably the majority of people use, and what I'm doing also, I'm applying it in real life market action. So we're opening a few trades on our demo account just to see how it's working, if it's working well or not. The whole point of this is to test it out, to see if it's working or not, to see all the pluses and minuses, how we can enter a trade, or what we should avoid. Yeah, you can also ask questions because it's an interactive session. So join in, ladies and gentlemen. So ladies and gentlemen, let's first of all have a look at the economic calendar. Let me refresh the page here. Let's start off with today. So today, just to let you know, we do have some holidays in the in Canada. Thanksgiving Day, Japan also National Sports Day. Yeah, apparently that's what I can see here on the calendar. Yes, and in the US it's Columbus Day, so yeah, keep your eyes on that. Let me just double check something very quickly. Yeah, so I mean the U.S. market will be open. I'm just confirming another source here. The market will be open, so that's not a problem. But it's I can see that there is a right, but there could be some shifts. Yes, okay. So okay, that's fine. So anyway, there could be some variations to the trading day. Okay, yes, I think that there's. It seems like in the normal trading hours. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, so yes, we have the trade balance from China. Now, this is what the market is talking about, and I think that this is, yes, this is a big deal, to be honest. Look at this. The trade balance, Chinese trade balance, previous 102 billion, right? The forecast was already on the lower side. Boom, 90, which is a little bit of a disappointment. However, it's mainly because of the imports that grew. But certainly, yeah, that's not a good sign, though, of course. However, we need to not to forget about the export side, because the exports did grow, and we saw some good action in there. Look, I mean, what I was reading this morning is that China is really stepping up in the game in terms of trying to, find new destinations and where to export. Um, it's a stick with two ends, okay? On one hand, that's great news. You're increasing. I can see that what's written here is that destinations by export grew in Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Australia, ASEAN countries, and the EU. So, but the exports to the U.S. have diminished. Now, again, this is a bit of a game here that we're watching, and certainly the question is this just a reroute, or actually for real we have a drop because of tariffs, because of all this uncertainty? The exports to the US dropped. Yes, they dropped, but are they still, those products are still ending up in China, but through a different route? That's why you have an increase of Chinese exports into these other countries. So again, this is the big game, and I think that the big question, and I think that, well, we all know the answer, right? So most likely everything is rerouted. Just the only thing is that you increased exports to those other countries, not to the U.S. But again, it's still the product ends up coming to the U.S. just through a different route, maybe just overcoming some of the tariffs. And of course, the big talk about tariffs, the big announcement that we got on Friday. You know what? I'll jump straight into that, because look, this is the point where I'm looking at Truth Social. This is the one that Trump is running, and basically where he posts his posts. And look, what they came out saying, that starting on November 1st or sooner, depending on my future action and changes in China, the United States of America will impose a tariff of 100% on China over and above any tariff here, which is already in place, so currently paying. So that's a big deal. That's kind of bringing us back to that April of this year moment, and we saw the market just collapsing on Friday. Big sell-off, and look, we were all watching it, and everybody was like, initially everybody was skeptical, because everybody still, if you haven't heard the term taco, I mean, Trump always chickens out. That's exactly what happened, because initially he posts this thing here, and then the thing that after that they calmed down a little bit, and they said, I still respect Xi Jinping, and we still kind of respect this, respect that. I still, value China as a partner. So in a way, that kind of changed the tone, and the market did correct back up. Look, I'll jump into the charts in a bit, but certainly we're going to be getting these market manipulations very often now, probably, because again, we need those corrections. Well, let's face it, right? You're not going to buy stocks at their all-time highs, right? You're not going to buy indices at all-time highs. Nobody wants to buy ETFs anymore, and because you're at all-time highs, you're like very much to the moon. You normally, when the saying goes like to the moon and back, well, you're not back, you're just to the moon. So that's what I'm saying. So you need to be very careful here for now. You need to be very cautious. We will probably be seeing some of these, like shocks, correction shocks to the downside, and mostly will be driven probably with tweets and posts and stuff like that. Anyway, so coming back to the economic calendar, today's day basically will revolve around geopolitical issues, and we know that right now the U.S. leader landed in Israel, and basically they're going to be, and then he's going to fly out to Egypt and to sign. Look, in my opinion, the issue is not finished. There are issues, concerns, over safety of the Palestinians. So certainly we'll see how they will continue in this matter. Anyway, but coming back to the markets, certainly that's the big question here. What's going to happen further this week on Tuesday? What do we have on Tuesday? We have the RBA meeting minutes from Australia. There we go, coming out in the early hours in the morning. But certainly, should we expect something extraordinary in there? Well, I don't think so. Not really. I mean, I think that they mainly will be watching what's happening with. In general, we already know what's happening, and I think we'll be mainly focused on. Are we going to get the government shutdown, the U.S. government shutdown finished? Because we need some data. We need some NFP numbers, right? So we'll see how that plays out, of course. So I think that, yeah, minutes are fine, but I think everybody already knows what's happening, and everybody understands that Australia is at the moment kind of on a stand pat moment. The interest rate sits at 3.6%. So it's flat. I mean, they're not really doing anything, so they're observing the price action. So, and observing inflation, which Australian inflation right now sits around 2.1 or something like that. So yeah. Anyway, so yes, we could see some shifts in AUD on this one on the news here, but not as, let's say, significant. Going further into UK, probably that's where we're going to be where we will start seeing some action in the Forex world, especially in GBP, and then we're going to get the UK unemployment. Look, where's that number? Unemployment. There we go, 4.7 at the moment. We're expecting again the same number as previous. So if anything comes out, let's say higher than the 4.7, maybe that could be a little bit of a bearish moment for the British pound, just because again the BOE will have to start stepping in again with some more cuts to boost and stimulate the economy and stuff like that. Again, theory, but let's see how this is going to play out, of course. Going further down the line, we have a few speeches. I think we have Jerome Powell's speech. Let me just double check very quickly. Fed Waller, Collins, Rogers. I thought I saw on the calendar Powell. Yeah, there we go. Yes. So we have a speech from Powell. So it's okay. Look, it's going to be monitored. Of course, it's going to be watched. We need to keep an eye on that. We need to understand what's going to happen there. I think that every little speech right now, every little hiccup or something, it will be monitored very carefully, because we are getting closer to this. At the end of October, we're going to get the interest rate decision, and at the moment we're expecting the rates to be cut. We're expecting to have one cut, but the market is speculating for maybe a possibility of two. Again, we'll see if that's going to be the case, because we're expecting another one in December, and basically by the end of this year we're expecting two. But certainly there is a moment where we are kind of secretly thinking about the possibility of seeing two cuts. Again, it would be quite interesting, would be a spectacular move, to be honest. Look, in a way, that's somebody might say that, of course, there's like a lot of debate here. We should do more cuts, we should do less cuts, and why are we in general going for those cuts? Like, look, for now, I think that we're in the pleasing the White House moment, and I think that nothing, I think, well, Jerome Powell is leaving next year, right, in March, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So I think maybe he wants to leave on a good note or something like that, and so that's why he's giving them what they want. So despite the inflation metrics, again, for now is all good. We could see the stock market still rallying on that front, on that news, and until we see maybe a new Jerome Powell coming into the Federal Reserve. But again, that's for now just a little bit of speculation. So I'm still somewhat bullish on the stock market, but I'll get to that in a bit. So yeah, that's the situation on Tuesday. Wednesday, very quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Wednesday, what's happening here on Wednesday? Australia, nothing. Inflation rate. There we go. China. There we go. Well, we're expecting an improvement, a little bit of an uptick. Of course, the Chinese PPI is also expected to improve as well. But in general, the fact that it's in negative territory, that's a little bit of a worrying moment, because look, you need still a little bit of inflation, right? I mean, in order to show growth. However, inflation is in negative zone, so you're kind of seeing, it could be, I would say, the buyer's market in China. I think this needs to be boosted again. And my question is actually, if the PBOC will eventually consider rate cuts again. So let me just see if I can. China interest. China interest rate. There we go. That's the ticker. Oh, excuse me. So basically, we are currently seeing this interest rate here on the Chinese. I think it's the 1 year. Yes, it's the 1 year, if I'm not mistaken, loan prime rate. The 1 year. Yeah, there we go. So this is the 1 year loan prime rate, which is sitting currently at 3%. And something tells me that if inflation does not get up to speed and doesn't jump back into at least positive territory, I really don't think that this is going to stay at 3. I think it's going to go lower a little bit. So again, just theory, because they need to do something, and they need to kind of, they need to do something about this, and they need to boost the economy a little bit. And honestly, for now, I don't see any other method that as long as they can boost lending, kind of maybe improve business conditions. Certainly the whole China-US relationship doesn't work. I mean, you constantly get threatened from one of the sides, and like they're going to impose tariffs on you again, and a little bit that you want it or not, even if it's not you who's starting that kind of feud, still you're caught up in it. And I think that's what the US is kind of wants. So maybe they want to destabilize Chinese economy this way, and to have, like, of course it's always the power play, the dominance, who wants to be on top. And I think that this is what's behind everything here. But at the moment, maybe it's working a little bit, but still China is pouring money into the economy. And but again, the question is, will they succeed? Like, are they gonna succeed in this? Of course, it's a long game. It's not we're not gonna sort it out by next weekend. But in general, the way, of course, it's not a positive thing for the stock market eventually, because the stock market will understand that something's wrong. Like, we cannot continue going like this. They will either have to agree on something, or if not, then hey, let's collapse the market. So anyway, coming back to the situation here, on Wednesday, what else do we have? Industrial production from Japan. Yep, something that we'll keep an eye on. Industrial production from the Eurozone as well. Yep, that's important. Manufacturing sales from Canada. Look, quite a busy day on Wednesday we have here. Oh, look, inflation numbers. Those are not going to come out, right? And or was it Thursday? Let me just double check. U.S. continuing. Yeah, the core PPIs. Okay. Thursday we should have the initial and continuous jobless claims, but again, that's big question. PPIs should be coming out, but again, also under question. Don't think that those will happen. Let me just double check, because like honestly, this whole situation with the US with their government shutdown, it is messing up the trade. It is messing up the trade game. We should be getting on the 24th now, as I can see here. On the 24th of October, we should be getting the CPIs. Is that correct? Let me just double check. The 24th. Okay, so apparently we'll see if that's going to happen or not, but certainly let's go back into the economic calendar. So yeah, the PPIs, we're watching those carefully from the US, but again, the question, are they going to come out or not? Because you can see now we have a backlog now of three, like we should be getting three numbers. So initial and continuous jobless claims. Look at this, 3. I have never seen this like this on the calendar to be placed. Like 3 numbers, initial and continuous jobless claims. One's like for 1 week, for the previous week, and then this week. So, okay, interesting. So we're also going to get the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index. Look, I'll say it this way: the PPIs, yes, we're expecting those to come out on the higher side, but again, you know what? Let's put it this way. Let's not kind of hope on let's not, let's say, focus on those numbers too much. If we hear in the news that, hey, we're going to be getting those like a day before, then we'll evaluate those. But at this point, it's really a little bit pointless to even think about these numbers, just because we don't know, are they going to happen or not. So doesn't matter in that case. So we're going to be watching some other speeches here. Fed's bar, Myron. There we go. I thought it was Miran, but no, it's Myron. Anyway, Myron's going to have a speech. So yeah, we're going to have those speeches. We're going to have again Lagarde speech on Thursday. So, and another Myron speech. Okay, so we're having a lot of talk. This is what I think that they're trying to fuel the market with, and I think that during this shutdown, I think that this is what they need. The market needs to pick up on something. Otherwise, the market might actually start selling off just on the absence of anything. The market might say, you know what? I think that's it. We don't have any talks happening or anything coming out, so why I should be in this stock market. So profit taking, we could see profit taking, but of course this is why we're seeing right now these speeches. They're fueling the market a little bit, so okay. Anyway, jumping into Friday here. This week on Friday, so we have the European CPI numbers. At least we're going to go get those. We have some building permits again, and housing starts. Yes, let's see if that's going to happen. Industrial production again. So if hopefully those are gonna happen. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a look at the charts. Let's see what's happening here, and certainly Japan today is closed, but we had a big decline on Friday here. Look. Long story short, I will say it this way, that if we continue to trade within this pattern here, I know that this is the main index here, and the cash index is somewhere else, but let's put it this way: if I see when it's going to open up, when the stock market is going to open up here in Japan, if I see this candle outside of this little range here, this little channel, actually not range, channel, then I'll consider the next short-term directional move. But at this point, I'm just observing the price action. China, Shanghai Composite, look at this madness, look at this. This is amazing. We had a big decline, on Friday. Honestly, I was watching the market and I was like, whoa! One moment I was examining the upside, but then suddenly, boom, to the downside. It's like, wow! And then you straight away start searching, for news. Is there like a conflict that is escalating, or is there like some sort of other big issue? No, it's just this. So. Okay, that's how we work now. Nowadays, that's how economic data is one thing, but this probably sits just fractionally above economic data as a market mover. Well, I mean, that's how, this is how the world, this is the world, the trading world that we live in right now. Anyway, so yeah, looking at this technical picture here on the SSE composite index. So if we do once again push and stay above the 3,889 zone, or actually 3,888 zone, if we continue to trade above this, then yeah, I will continue targeting the upside. So jumping into Dow Jones Industrial Average, look at this beautiful candle. Right now the cash index is already like retracing back up here, but I deliberately don't want to look at the cash index yet, because you know what, I'll give it time, because again, the day is young and so are we. Yeah. I will keep an eye on this one. And you know what, I think for me right now, looking at this, just the trading hours, how it traded, and during the trading, during its main trading hours, I think this is a little bit easier to kind of, to eliminate the noise, which is right now. So look, right now we're retracing, and if we're going to remain above the 45,785 territory, which is the inside swing low here of this 25th of September, then I will potentially consider a little bit of a larger correction back up. However, in terms of correction back up, you need to be very careful, because maybe we could end up retracing towards this downside line. Maybe this downside line could be the one that is going to hold up here, provide resistance, and maybe then we'll drift back down. Or if we do break the downside line, okay, congratulations to the bulls. We could examine higher levels. But at this point, let's not rush into things, okay? Because we are in postland, in tweetland, and yes, we're waiting for some other news in terms of what's going to happen. In terms of how it's going to happen with China. We know that China is like retaliating and everything, but again, we understand that the tensions have calmed down a little bit, because the White House decided, no, we do like China and blah 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 and stuff like that. So okay. Anyway, for now, long story short, I will say it this way. If we do see a drop below Friday's close here, below the 45,470 zone, yes, I'm leaning towards the downside. I'm leaning towards that 100-day EMA or even lower. For now, I'm considering a little bit of a larger correction back up, just because on the news of the calming down moment, right? The S&P 500, another beautiful move. Honestly, this is spectacular. This is what I like to see sometimes, to be honest. And oh my God, look at this beautiful move here. 6,551, bang, to the testing the low of the 17th of September. There we go. Boom, fantastic movement here. And what can I say? Of course, if we do drop below this hurdle, then yeah, I'm going to go lower. I'm going to keep an eye on the 50-day EMA here, shown as the green line. But I think that, yes, it could open the door to some lower levels. So, but at the moment, we're seeing a little bit of a retracement. In terms of the upside on this one, okay, look, this is a little bit of a tricky moment here for me. I would keep an eye on this little hurdle, the 6,619 zone right here. I want to clear up the chart here a little bit. So basically, if we do start climbing back above the 6,619 zone right here, then yes, I will consider maybe a little bit of a larger correction back up. NASDAQ. Looks amazing. Honestly, it looks amazing. Oh, by the way, I forgot to measure the drop here. I want to see how much, we've, from the peak, actually, from the peak all the way down here, boom, 3.88% on NASDAQ. It's almost like 1,000 points drop. On the S&P situation here, also from the peak, I'm talking about from the peak of that day, also like 3.13, and Dow, NASDAQ was the biggest problem, because again, technology is the most sensitive. And just to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, this is for you a good example in terms of if suddenly times go rough, that technology is going to be the first one that's going to get hammered. So if you're in a position where you want to look at some stocks, for example, like stocks which do good maybe during the bad times, or at least as I did already one of the webinars on my side here, what do you do like when the times go rough, like when everything goes down, like which stocks you need to look at, which sectors you need to look at. So what I was saying is dwell in there that you sometimes during those bad times, if you still want to be in the market, you look at stocks which don't have to like actually drop significantly, right? I mean, if you can get yourself into a stock which during a crisis kind of stays afloat, or let's say it fluctuates a little bit, minus 2% here, plus 2% here, like in this way, right? It's still good. It's actually good. We're not, during bad times, we're not looking at growth. If you can pick up on a stock which also delivers a dividend, that's actually even better. So again, consider these options. But certainly, when, like I said, we had a moment, times are rough. Were rough on Friday, and we saw a decline. So Dow, it was the least loser. S&P was followed by S&P, and then Nasdaq was the biggest loser. Why? Because again, technology. When times go bad, everybody starts thinking about food, right? About like housing, about like shelter and food and medicine, and technology kind of gets pushed away. So you can live without technology. Okay, debatable-ish, but you know what I mean, right? You still need food, so you still need medicine, you still need shelter. So this is what, and this is a good example of exactly that. So keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever we're going to have a little, a little crisis moment or something like that, Nasdaq is the first one that you can probably short anyway. But because look, when we were in April of this year, right? Let me just show you what I'm talking about. So we recovered on Nasdaq. We recovered very quickly, but we also dropped very quickly. So let me just check here from the peak here to the bottom. Roughly was 16%. That was back in April. On the S&P, what do we get here? How big of a percent here was? Around 15%, and Dow was going to be. I'm going to say it's going to be less exactly. So. And Dow was around 13%. Actually, wait, S&P. Yeah. So Dow, S&P, Nasdaq. Look at this. But of course, Nasdaq recovered very quickly, but it was the biggest one, the first one to feel like the biggest pain. So that's what I'm talking about. So this is what like you need to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Again. I don't know, maybe it'll, like I said, maybe it'll adjust your portfolio. DAX, of course. After hitting an all-time high last week, we reversed back down, but look at this. We remain above the upper side of the falling channel here. That's great. We did briefly drop below it, but we remain above it. This morning, look at this. Because the futures were trading further and we recovered and we're now sitting above this hurdles. Look, I will say this way. At this point, I'm going to keep an eye on this little hurdle still, this 24,639. Yes, it is not the all-time high because the all-time high is around here, but I told you on the monthly chart, keep your eyes. If we are going to go for another, new all-time high, but we're going to fail to close above the previous all-time high, that for me is a negative zone. That's for me a negative signal. I can't honestly I mean that's a worrying sign. My only issue right now is that we're kind of in this pre-holiday season, so we could be we could be rallying just on a because again we're in this holiday mode, like everybody's feeling great and stuff like that. So keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Keep that in mind, and maybe, like I said, maybe it's time right now to buy again, but certainly there's a lot of threats, issues, and that we don't know what's going to happen with China. So I'm not telling you to buy right now, no, for sure, because again, I even don't know what to do here, because again, I'm just going from I'm reacting to the events, and not really exposing myself too much to the market, because again, it's uncertainty. Equity world right now, maybe you can actually look at several individual stocks, like for example, let's have a look actually what's happening with those big top technology companies. Nvidia, right? I mean, Nvidia, we don't have the pre-market data yet, but I'm sure it's going to be somewhere around here. We're going to be rebounding from those lows. So I think that at the end of Friday, I think there were a lot of buyers. There were a lot of buyers who bought these big big boys here. Actually, BBAI. There we go. So this is now these are gonna be suffering. Yep. Let's see, core weave. Where is that core weave? Core weave. Yep. There we go. So all these guys, yeah, they're going to be, some of them are going to be suffering, some of them are going to be like a good buy. DGT, there we go, let's have a look. Okay, beautiful decline. Look at this on target. And I think that this will recover at some point. Certainly, it will have to recover. Macy's. Now, I'm looking at these stocks here, because these are the holiday stocks, like Macy's, for example. Before the holiday, nice little correction. Maybe people will start buying stuff again. But I think at this point, the people are a little bit worried in terms of what's going to happen next, because the US dollar right now is on the low side in a way, and Friday's shakeup didn't really help. However, maybe it will adjust. Because look, for now, the FTSE 100 here, I forgot to mention this one. The FTSE 100 did retrace, but it's, again, the same story as with other indices. Maybe it will catch some buying action here later on. But for now, we're watching very carefully what's going to happen between the US and China, and how this is going to go further escalate. Yes, the geopolitical side is kind of calming down a little bit, but certainly still a big question. Right. So yes, the dollar index. There we go. We rallied. We tested that 23.6. I talked about it. The 23.6 is drawn from it's on the Fibonacci, which is drawn from the highest point of 2025, current highest point of 2025, to the current lowest point of 2025, and yep, we reached that 23.6 perfectly. Now we're sitting here. We're not giving. It seems like the bulls are not giving up, and my theory is that, and I said that my theory is that we could see some actually kind of buying interest on on DXY. Why? Because, well, look, you need to keep your American people happy, right? Especially going into holidays, and if your American people are not do not have a strong purchasing power because of the weaker dollar. I think that could be an issue. And look, this whole signing of the agreement, signing of the ceasefire, it comes in perfectly, because now you don't need to sell much weapons to other countries, and you don't need to we already did all the profits there. Now it's time to maybe strengthen the US dollar, because before the holiday season, so this way the people can be happy. And people can be praising the leaders. So yeah, look, companies like Lockheed Martin, right? You can see the reversal here. We're saying not only the stock got battered because of the the whole market sentiment on Friday, but also it started reversing back down a little bit, just because, again, you're having those contracts signed, right? BAE Systems. Let me see if we can find this. BAE System. Okay, I cannot have this one, right? Okay. RTX, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, RTX, Raytheon Technologies. Right, there we go. Beautiful decline. Yes, Friday's decline. There we go. But but the thing is that we started retracing back down very heavily on Thursday and Wednesday already. So basically, this is when we already knew that there was going to be like a peace talk. There was going to be like a a moment where it will calm down in the Middle East. There's going to be ceasefire, so you don't need those companies anymore, right? So they did all this profit on all the blood, so now it's like time to rest. Now the one company that is still kind of okay, still probably let me just double check. Yes, there we are, Rheinmetall. Now these guys are still holding on. Try to guess which conflict has not finished yet. We're so there is still money to be made in that conflict, and certainly if there is going to be some sort of a kind of a peace offering or something, some sort of like that, or some sort of peace in there, then yeah, this company will drop significantly, because this company rallied from 2022. Look at this. This is the big jump here. That's the one. That's the and it jumped, on the day when everything escalated and in Ukraine, and there we go. So congratulations to all those shareholders of this company, because going from like just around 100 euros for share, you ended up with 1,000, almost like 2,000 here. Yep, there we hit. There was a hit of 2,000. I mean, wow, right? Anyway. So yeah, coming back to the situation with DXY, I think that the US dollar does have a little bit of potential for some upside, but I'll shift my attention to the downside if we do fall back below this downside line right here, taken from the high of the 12th of May. And then we'll just take it from there. Just a quick glance at VIX. What happened here on Friday? There we go. Boom, to the upside. I mean, we reached the level around 22.5 zone here. So we were around 16. So yeah, you get these occasional swings. I think that VIX right now could see a little bit of a push higher, but I think that there's going to be a little bit of a retracement back down. Let's jump into the Forex world, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, AUDUSD, boom, there we go, to the downside on Friday, correcting today to correcting higher today. Yes, the big question is what's going to happen next. Look, I talked about AUDUSD in my Forex update as well. Where's that one? So this is a quick Forex update, and look, I talked about this one in my morning webinars as well. Basically, I said I'm waiting for a clearance of one of the sides here, either a drop below the 0.6520 zone right here, or a push above the 0.6629. I got the drop through the lower side. I'm aiming lower. I was aiming for this upside line taken from the low of the 24th of April, but it didn't really reach that. But okay, look, you cannot really get everything, but in general the move happened. It was a good move, and now the big question is what's going to happen next. So the next thing here is this upside line that I'm still watching. If we do get a nice clearance of it, I'll go lower. AUDNZD, beautiful reversing moment here back up. Of course, risk on is back on the table, at least for now, and that's why we're seeing AUD kind of picking up the pace. New Zealand dollar should also be doing that, capturing that risk on mood, but because it's more of a lot problematic currency right now, just because of the government inside in New Zealand, there is a problem with the growth, and I think in New Zealand dollar right now is the one that's devaluating a lot. So, and I think that you need to boost, you need to increase interest rates, but we know RBNZ right now is cutting, and I think that they will continue cutting. So basically, you're choosing which one to sacrifice, right? So you're choosing either, you want to boost your growth a little bit and drop your interest rates, and or you actually want to save the currency and kind of go from that perspective, right? But at the moment, I think that you're damaging your own currency mainly just to boost growth. But again, it's you're increasing exports, or at least you're trying to increase exports this way by devaluing your currency against your big partners, right? So we know that Australia is one of the big partners. Anyway, we'll see how that plays out. Anyway, the sun is shining again into my forehead, into my head, and in the back here. Right, going further, AUDJPY. So yes, big drop on our risk on risk off monitor, AUDJPY. Big drop on Friday, big recovery right now. What I said to you previously, that if we do stay above this 99.17 zone, I'm going to continue targeting the upside. So for now, we're trying to climb back up. Now the problem which I have here is that we did not stay, right? I mean, on the weekly we failed and we did not stay. So in a way, you could say that actually there's more downside to come. In a way, you're not going to be wrong here, but given that it was not a normal day, it was more of a post-driven, like tweet, like a message-driven sell-off. It's kind of becomes this, are we actually looking at it from that perspective? Are we actually considering that drop as a something that is not going to be like just a one-off, maybe like a hiccup in the market? And we're at this point, I'm going to be very careful here, so I'm leaning a little bit more towards the upside, but only if we do see this one continuing to trade above that 99.17 zone, and then we'll just take it from there. Let's jump into EURUSD very quickly. Let's see what's happening here. Like a gradual decline here on Thursday. Friday, a little bit of recovery because the US dollar took a dive, but actually the short-term trend right now is to the downside. If we do also remain below the 100-day EMA. If we do fall below it, I'm going to lean towards the downside. EUROJPY very quickly, a little bit of a shift here and there. That's fine, but hey, it was a good reach of this 177.91 zone. I talked about this, if you remember, in my last week's webinars, and I said that this is going to be my target, and we reached the target, and we started drifting back down. I'll jump into a monthly chart. So this is the level that I was aiming for. Look at this. So this was the level. This is the highest point of 1991. That's where we end up traveling to, and that's where we end up, what level we ended up testing. So we tested the 1991 highest level. So the question is, can we reach that 188.22, which is the highest point of 1990? You see, these are the levels that we're testing right now. We're going in. It's quite historic, to be honest. So the question is, hey, does this one have still enough steam? I think that yes. I think that right now there is hope that the BOJ will go for that interest rate hike, but the problem is the current government, which they have elected. So the leader Sanaya Takaichi is a little bit in favor of cuts. So maybe they will reach a consensus. One's in favor of cuts, one's planning to do a hike. Maybe they'll reach a consensus and say, you know what, we're not going to do anything during the end of October. Let's see. And in that case, the Japanese yen could continue devaluating. EURNZD pushing back up. Look, I'm loving this one. I'm still somewhat positive on this, and if we do push above the 2.0310 zone right here, I'm going to continue targeting the upside. For me, the downside scenario is in a break below the psychological 2 level. Euro. Let's GBPUSD very quickly. So again, beautiful decline on Friday, dropped lower. We tested the 200-day EMA on my daily chart. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. It was a good moment here. I talked about this. I said that I'm going to keep an eye on this hurdle here, and this is going to be my target. But if I want to see lower levels, then certainly a drop below the 200-day EMA is required. For me, the upside scenario here is on a push above this downside line. If we can get a push above this downside line right here, then yes, great. More buyers potentially could join in. GBPJPY also very quick, similar story here. So good action. Let me just get rid of everything, to be honest. Excuse me. So if you're looking at some lower levels, I think that the better option here is to wait for a drop below the 201.26. This drop on Friday, like I said, it's a hiccup. It's a hiccup, and if you're really in the mood of considering maybe better lower levels, then maybe a drop below this high of or should I say, is this the highest point of September? Yep, the highest point of September. A drop below that could attract a few more sellers into the game for the upside. Pretty straightforward. A push above the 205.32 zone right here is required. USDCAD, very interesting here. Beautiful test of this area, the 1.4016, and look at this. We overshot that, but we are struggling to remain above it. So it's a good sign for the bears. However, the bulls, they needed a push. The bulls need a push above the 1.4016 zone, and we need to see the body of the daily candle remaining above it. So if we do get that, great. More buyers could join in. For the downside, I would like to see a drop below the 1.3932, and then we'll take it from there. USDJPY, beautiful reversal here, beautiful move to the downside. So hey, great. Look, we're still inside the pattern, and I said to you that For me, this pattern is more like a rising wedge pattern, so I don't want to kind of, let's say, rush into this very much. So it's a bearish indication. However, the question is, are we gonna actually see that breakout to the downside? Let's not rush in, like I said, into things for now. I want to see if this upper side is going to continue to hold, because on a weekly you'll see that we had a false breakout. There we go, beautiful. USDCHF. Now this one's interesting, to be honest, very interesting. And we recovered today. Yes, we recovered. We pushed back up. We still remain above this 0.8014 level, and I talked a lot about this. So basically, we still remain above it, and that's kind of giving us a little bit of reassurance that we could see a bit of a move higher here. Now look, I'm not really getting way too comfortable with the upside, let's say much higher levels, because initially I'm aiming for the 100-day EMA shown here as the blue line. I think that I have my alert set up here. I do like this area, so I want to see if we're going to end up reaching that. If we do continue to trade above the 0.8014, then yes, I'm gonna continue targeting towards that, aiming for that what am I talking about? This 100-day EMA is shown as the blue line. If we fall below the 0.80 and 14 and we stay below it again, then yes, I'm going to consider a move lower. Very quickly on commodities, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a look at what's happening in the commodity world. Gold, all-time high this morning, to the moon. Of course, we're not loving the the tensions between U.S. and China, and everybody's in this risk kind of off. Look, it's a problem here. It's not risk off, risk on. It's more of a safe haven moment. But in general, I'll say it again, and I'll say it again that we're going for those all-time highs. Yes, great. I talked about this already. Look, you can check out the recent Can DXY Steal the Thunder from gold, and I talked about gold in here. And I said to you, look, my next potential target could be this 4,310 zone-ish, approximately around there. Just because we are crazy right now. We are going hyperbolic. I mean, look at this move. It will go down. It will go down, but every attempt right now to short it, it's a little bit of a difficulty. And I think that we need to kind of accept the fact that right now the market is the market gets shaken up, and the only place where people can remain kind of positive about is the gold purchases. And also we understand that the Fed is going to continue with the rate cuts, so that's why we're going to get, and that's why the gold is becoming attractive. But if suddenly if you want to bring gold down, you need to kind of the Fed needs to say that we're not going to do more cuts. We need to examine the possibility of maybe considering inflation as a problem, but at the moment it's not the case. And at the moment, gold is just the place where you park your money. That governments are buying it, and one thing, if the governments are buying it, that's great. You can be in the same game, in the same boat. However, you need to understand that they will unwind their positions quicker than you. So we will see a big reversal back down. But for me, the big indication could be that if we do see a sharp spike to the upside, a mega move here to the upside, and then at the same day we reverse very quickly, for me that could be a little bit of a worrying sign. Silver as well, this one is on fire. I told you about silver, and I talked about silver, and I said, look, in my session on last week, on Friday, as I wrote, shine bright like silver. Silver was crazy to the upside, and we hit a new all-time high. We're hitting a new all-time high right now. Silver has not done something like that since it only did this 3 times since 2011 and then 1980. What ended up being a big major reversal. It will come. Don't get me wrong. It will come. The only thing is, we cannot really find right now the good reversal entry here or something like that. So from the technical perspective, at this point. Now, look, I do consider this one to, I think that this will continue traveling higher, but if by any chance it starts falling below the previous all-time high, which is around the 51.23, something around here, if it starts falling below that, and stays below that, and it stays at the close of the day, below that, I will consider a little bit of a move to the downside. But at the moment, it's just one-way traffic. It's hyperbolic. But if you're thinking entering this one, okay, feel free. You do whatever you want. Just the only thing is that consider the fact that what comes up must come down. Of course, it could still go for another month, and then you'll say, "Oh my God, Darius, you didn't see the future." Well, sorry, yeah, I didn't see the future. But at the moment, I'm judging from what I see right now, and what I see right now is just a repetition of 2020. 2011 and 1980. That's what I see right now. So no shoot, do not shoot. Anyway, platinum, like looking at this one, beautiful move to the upside as well. Everything is fine here. Palladium also rallying again, but Palladium, I like it, and I talked about Palladium, and basically I called the breakout here. I said keep your eyes on it. This was a good breakout area. Good potential move here could be. So just be careful, but, and like I said, we could still travel further north, to be honest. I mean, 2000 level is an interesting one. I think it's doable. Hey, keep your eyes on that one. Copper. Now this is an interesting one. Look at this fluctuation here. This is Friday. This is today. I mean, talk about market manipulation, right? Look, at the moment, with copper, I would say it this way. First of all, beautiful retracement back to the 50% here. That's great. We tested it. Boom. We can get rid of the Fibonacci. No longer needed. Now what I'm looking at here is the current all-time high right here. If we can clear that, then great. I'll go towards the upside. But at the moment, I'm not rushing. And if I do see a drop below today's low, that's 945, then I'll go lower. I do understand a very big wide area here. Nope. I'm not touching this one because, again, this is just way too big of a problem for me, and I'm just going to observe the price action on this one. Very quickly on cocoa, let's see what's happening here. It continues to decline. That's in a way great because we can pick it up at a later stage, but it seems that the situation with the crops, with all the, that we do have enough supply, the situation with the crops improved, and trees have been saved, but in general, we're not really protected from the future in terms of what can happen with the future. So the diseases spread, they affect crops, and we know that, and the cocoa trees are one of the the trickiest to maintain in a way, because again diseases capture very quickly. So keep an eye on this one. It's an interesting one. We're declining. I think that we could still go further south, but eventually at some point it will reverse back up. Sugar, now my beloved sugar, look at this. We're resting on this little hurdle, this 1605. So I talked about it, and I said that if we do continue to trade above this area, I'm going to go to the upside. If you're very cautious, you're careful, you can keep an eye on some of these barriers right here. So this 16.88, the 17 zone, I think the psychological 17 level is the one to watch for the upside here. So in terms of the downside, what I'm looking at here is this as well. So these are the areas, the 15.16, 15.11. I like that. That's more my target for the downside if we do fall and stay below the 16 level. Soybeans, those are in question because again we need to have that talk between the two leaders, U.S. and China. So we're waiting for soybeans to kind of maybe make a bigger move. Very quickly on oil, what's happening here? Oil, there we go, beautiful decline. I said to you last week, the week before that, the month before that, and the 2 months before that, I said that I am bearish on oil, and that's I do not see it strengthening yet. I'm going to continue. I'm going to remain bearish on oil. with these little corrections back up, yes, that's great, that's possible, that's perfect, position for entry maybe, but again, you need to be very careful, because again, we could see a spike higher as well on some sort of news, and then a reversal back down. So at the moment, yep, I am still bearish as long as we stay below the 59 or just the $60 mark, because I remember a $60 mark, that's what I was targeting. There we go, tick. If we're going to continue to trade below the $60 mark, my next target is the $55 mark. Brent oil, similar story, beautiful decline here, tested the 62.13. Great. If we do drop below that 62.13, I'm going to go further south. Natural gas, great move here to the downside. I think that there is still room for some lower levels up until this area right here. At least this upside line, which is taken from the lowest point of August of this year. And very finally on the crypto world, ladies and gentlemen. So if you have bought crypto at the drop here on Friday, congratulations, or during the weekend, congratulations, you're making some dough, you're making some cash, and there we go. Look, first of all, what I want to do here is I want to get rid of everything and start fresh. There we go. I think that's great. That's the best thing to do here. So let's mark the area where it dropped 103,000 almost, after reaching an all-time high here back in the beginning of October, actually on Monday. On Monday, actually, we were at all-time high, and Friday we sold off. There we go, beautiful. Monday all-time high, Friday, well, a few months low here. When was it? When was the last time when we were here? June. So 4 months, right? September, August, July. So 3 months, roughly 3 months, or maybe 4. It depends. Round it up here. Yeah. 3 months at least, and we tested this area, we rebounded, pushed back up. So look, I'll say it this way: if we do find our way back above this 118 zone again, which I talked about several times already, I will go to the upside. If we don't, we might start oscillating a little bit here, but my other issue here is for the downside. I will consider the downside if we do break this upside line right here. And if we do drop below this upside line, I will consider a move lower. Bitcoin Cash, beautiful drop, beautiful move away from that 600 level. Honestly, I told you about the 600. It's a good area for resistance so far, and I think that that's going to be my barrier for the future. If we do climb back above the 600, great, I'll go higher. But at the moment, there is still potential for some downside, especially if we do fall back below this hurdle, below that 533 territory, and then I will aim for that 200-day EMA again, and then we'll see what's happening there. Ripple, I mean, look at this. I mean, the further we go from the popular ones, the more of a, you can sense the deep decline. Look at this. I mean, honestly, look at this move. We reached the areas, we surpassed this lowest point of April, to be honest. Actually, we created a new low for this year. There we go, 1.58. Look at, oh my God, this is just spectacular. Look, congratulations to those who picked up here, but certainly that it was, it was a little bit messy here. For now, I will say this way, that as long as we stay below the 200-day EMA, I will continue to target the downside. I'm gonna be getting more comfortable with the upside if we do clear my these downside lines right here. If we do clear those, wonderful, great, more buyers here could join in. Ethereum is at an interesting spot here, and Ethereum, again, we dropped below this area. I talked about it. It worked in a way. The idea worked, but very, very quickly. I was hoping for a little bit something more casual, more calm. I think that at this point, to consider some lower levels, I think that we need to be a little bit more on the careful side. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to wait for a drop below the 3,825. If we do get that, great. I'm going to go lower. But if we do push above the 4,275 territory right here, I think I'm going to consider slightly higher levels up until this tentative downside resistance line. And then we'll just take it from there. Litecoin, very quickly, beautiful decline. I mean, also a new low for this year. Look at this. I mean, this is just madness, honestly. Like, wow. Let me just mark this previous low. This was reached in August. I mean, there we go. Look at this. Look at this speculation. Honestly, this is just fantastic. You know, if they didn't have any positions, if the government didn't have any positions in crypto during the during this Friday move, this Friday post, you know, I would be surprised if they didn't. So, but I think this is quite, like I said, talk about market speculation, right? Market manipulation. Anyway, looking at this picture, look, I will consider a move lower if we do drop below the 90.30 zone right here. For the upside, look, this downside line no longer needed. For the upside, I think that maybe a better option here is to wait for a push above the 107.79, somewhere around here. It would mark a good area of resistance here. Back, it was inside swing high of the September 24th here, 24th of September, yes. And again, like I said, this, for now, this could be an interesting level. Maybe these EMAs could approach this area and we could jump above though all of them, you know, at that time. So I'm not rushing into things here. I'm just observing the price action because I want this one to settle down a little bit more. Dogecoin, another one. I mean, I'm going to go into Polkadot and Tron. You'll see that action in there as well. But yeah, look, in general, actually, forgetting about all the posts and putting all the posts aside, the technicals worked out. I told you about the rising veg pattern here, which tends to break to the downside. Boom. Look at this. Look at this spectacular move. Look at this amazing move here. And we cleared some key areas of support. This, for example, 0.2209. We cleared that one. Yes, we you know, we dropped heavily here. We reached the 0.10 zone, almost 0.1030. I mean, we bounced back up. Now we bounced like 100% back from this low. Look, we remain below the 200-day, below all the EMAs on my daily chart, so there is a chance for this one to retrace back down again. Let's keep an eye on that one. For the upside, I would prefer to wait for a push above this downside line right here. And great, you know, more buyers could join in. Polkadot, beautiful. I mean, wow, is this is a historic low, or no, sorry, not, I don't think it's a historic low, no, but this is just one of those. Yeah, I think, look, like this is, yeah, this is a historic low, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. This is what I have here. This data. Wow, 1.44 the previous one. We dropped to 1.17 on Polkadot. Amazing. Look at this. Amazing. We are now back above this psychological 3 level. Okay, that's great, but I'm not going to rush into this yet because this is just crazy, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. This is just crazy. We pushed, we dropped below the, you know, we created a new low in the flash crash here. It will recover, but certainly it leaves us, you know, questioned if this is normal or not. I mean, in my opinion, no, because again, it's pure market manipulation. And I really, and because you tweet out that you're gonna, you know, you're gonna do this, and then your next day or during the weekend you're like, oh no, it's fine, I'm just, you know, messing around or something like that. Anyway, yeah, it's the world that we're living in right now. And finally, Tron. Now, Tron, I wanted to show you Tron. Tron is one of those, I don't want to say safe haven, but I want to say a little bit more stable, you know, a little bit more kind of cautious and a little bit more kind of, you know, somewhere, if you want to be in a crypto world and you don't want to experience major swings, Tron is one of those. I have been monitoring Tron, and honestly, it's like I said, it's something of a like a little safe haven moment here. So I'm not saying that, you know, you need to buy it, no, but in general, you know, apart from this big move here, you need a big shock of some sort, honestly, to, you know, to, this was the, you know, the Trump presidency here before, you know, this was like the big rally here, so everybody was like buying it. So look, I think that there could be some downside on this one as long as we stay below the 100-day EMA. We could aim for that 200-day EMA once again. So, and then we'll just take it from there. I'll consider some higher levels if we do actually push above the downside line right here, and if we do clear this downside line, which is taken from the highest point of August. Is that correct? No, the high, sorry, the high of the 24th of August, if we clear that one, then yeah, I'm going to go for some upside. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll have to wrap it up here. I already went a little bit overboard with my webinar, but hopefully you stuck around and hopefully you enjoyed it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching and listening. I really appreciate your time. It was, like I said, it was an interesting Friday that we had. We had to talk about it. I had to talk about it, and I think that yes, I covered everything what I wanted to say. But in general, look, be careful. These moments will happen again, and certainly they present good opportunity. But at the same time, you need to be cautious, and you need to kind of understand that if you're gonna be exposed too much, you might lose too much as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching, listening. As always, stay safe, have your stop losses in place, risk only what you can afford to lose, don't overtrade, and everything will be fine. Join me on Wednesday. Don't forget to like and follow and to subscribe to our channel, and yeah, we'll go from there. I'll see you later, ladies and gentlemen. Bye bye.